friends. In this video, we're going to learn how to play Arco, or with the bow. The word arco is Italian for the word arch, and you can see that there's an arch in our bow. Using the arco technique, on the bass we can get long sustained tones, as well as a wide variety of dynamics and articulations. The bass is unique because there are two main types of bows. In this video, we're just going to talk about one, and that's the French bow, and it looks like this. There's also another type called the German bow, which has a larger frog, and it looks like this. If you have a German bow, do a quick internet search on German bass bow holds, and you'll find a variety of videos that are extremely helpful with that bow hold. That being said, in this video, a lot of the preparations and techniques for the Arco stroke are going to apply to both the German and the French. Okay, first things first, let's get our arms set up for a nice relaxed bow hold. Number one most important thing is to have relaxation in both arms and be flexible, starting from our shoulder all the way down to the tips of our fingers. So in this first exercise, we're going to achieve that. So what I want you to do is just let your arms fall and hang at your sides. A visualization that I like to use is that I'm holding two bags of really heavy groceries and they're pulling my arms straight down. And I'm just feeling that weight, the pull of gravity on both sides. So this weight that we feel in our arm, we're going to utilize that to push into the string to create sound. And so we really want to make sure that we're accessing that weight. Second step, what we're going to do is we're going to practice the pathway of the bow. And what I want you to visualize is a grandfather clock, tick-tocking back and forth. So let your hands sway back and forth. One thing that's really important here is that we're not going to be bending the elbow excessively. There's going to be a little swing in it because we're relaxed, but we don't want to bend it like this. We want to keep our arm relatively straight, just hanging down as if we were holding those heavy bag of groceries. So we're pendulum back and forth, tick, tock, tick, tock, right in front of you. This is the pathway of our bow. The top of our shoulder doesn't move, but we swing here from this part of our arm. And it continues all the way through our hand. Next thing to talk about is our wrist. We want to have our wrist flexible. So I like to do a little bit of bouncing back and forth, sort of like you're dribbling a basketball. Just let it feel floppy. Now that our arm is relaxed, let's go ahead and get our bow hold set up. So all you need is your bow from your case. All right, now we have our bow. We're going to talk about the parts of the bow before we set up the bow hold. So I'm going to start here at this end and work our way up to this end. On this end, we have what's called the tensioning screw. That turns left and right, or clockwise and counterclockwise, to tighten the hair. When you tighten the hair, it pulls the frog, this part right here, this black piece of wood. Sometimes there's a little decorative circle in the middle. It pulls the frog back to tighten it, and when you loosen it, it scoots back. Next part is the hair, this part right here. It's really important that we don't touch the hair because the oils from our hand can get stuck on the bow hair and cause it not to function properly. Next part, this big piece of wood, sometimes made of fiberglass here, is called the stick. On the stick here, we have what's called the bow grip and the winding. The bow grip is there just so we don't rub with our fingers into the wood and wear it out over time. And the winding is there to add weight to the back side of the bow. Moving up, we have the tip, a really important part of our bow frog that's going to help us with our bow hold is this little silver part right here. It's called the furrow. Now we're going to use that as a contact point with our right hand. Now that we know the parts of the bow, let's set up our bow hold. So I want you to hold your bow in your left hand at the stick. Now I'm going to do this in mirror image, so it's on the same side of the screen as your hand is out there. So with your left hand, grab the stick sort of around the middle, just like this. That frees up your right hand to set up our bow hold. Let your arm relax, your right arm relax. Think about those heavy groceries. Flop that wrist around, get it nice and relaxed. Now all I want you to do is raise from the shoulder and flop your fingers over the bow. So we're just doing a little flop here. Think about your fingers as a liquid and it's water falling over the bow. Now with your middle finger, aim your middle finger pad, the fingerprint of your middle finger, right for the ferrule, just like mine is like this. Right there. You don't want to go too far or too short. You want to just cover up the furrow with your middle finger and then let the other fingers flop naturally. Now to make sure that our wrist isn't bent in an uncomfortable or awkward way, what I want you to do is pretend like you're putting your bow up on a high shelf, and that straightens the arm out just a little bit, and you can see the shape of my wrist. Double check that yours is the same. Once you have your fingers, pinky, ring, middle, and index laying over the bow, with our wrist not making an abrupt curve, but a very soft curve, we're going to set up our thumb. The placement of our thumb is really important for the proper function of our bow, so pay close attention to where I put my thumb. We're going to aim our thumb in between the end of the frog and the bow grip. So we're going to slowly curve our thumb and let it access the frog just like this. Make sure that we're keeping our thumb slightly curved. We don't want a jagged curve, and we definitely don't want it perfectly straight. So work on that soft curve. Now that we have our bow hold set up, what I want to do is I want to move into rocket ship position. So have the tip of your bow point towards the ceiling. And we're going to practice a little bow exercise. We're going to practice up bow and down bow. It's pretty obvious which direction is up bow when you're in this position. Up is towards the ceiling, and down is towards the floor. Go ahead and practice an up bow, and practice a down bow. Now, something to think about with up bows and down bows, it doesn't matter which direction your bow is pointing, but a down bow is when the frog is creating the motion, and the up bow is when the tip is creating the motion. I like to envision my bow like a train, where you have an engine in the back and an engine in the front. When the engine in the back on the frog pulls, you're doing a down bow. And when the engine in the tip pulls, you get an up bow. For the remainder of this video, I'm going to move my bow back to my right hand, so it's going to be on the opposite side of the screen as you, but it's going to help me show you the bow stroke. First things first, we got to tighten the hair of our bow in order to play. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the tensioning screw clockwise until the hair moves away from the stick, but we still maintain a nice curve in the stick. So like this, I'm turning clockwise, and the hair is tightening, and your bow should probably look about like this. Every bow is a little different. Some bows like to be tighter, some bows like to be a little looser, but this is a nice medium placement. So try this first. Now that the hair is tight, let's talk about rosin. In order to make the string sound when we draw the bow across the string, there needs to be a little bit of friction. So what we use is rosin. You may have this type of rosin, you may have a different type of rosin, but they all work the same. Take your rosin out of the case, and we're going to apply some rosin to the bow hair. For the base, what I like to do is I like to take my right thumb and cover up the furrow like this. Then with my rosin at an angle and my bow at the opposite angle, I draw the rosin across the bow in one big motion like this. And I don't want to push too hard. If I push too hard, it'll go like this, or it'll make a squeaky sound at me. So you want to move it so we're getting a little rosin on the bow, but it's moving straight. Now, it's different from violin and cello and viola when we go back and forth with the rosin. Because our base rosin is so sticky, if we do that, we create too much friction, and it'll grab the hairs and pull them out. So we just want to do one quick motion from frog to tip. And that's probably about enough. Something else unique about bass is that we have to rosin our bow relatively often compared to the other instruments in the violin family. So maybe about every other time you are playing your bass, you probably want to apply rosin. If it feels like you need rosin, you probably need it. If it doesn't feel like it, don't put too much on. With a freshly rosined and tightened bow, let's grab our instruments and play some open strings. Now that we have our instrument and our bow, let's play some open strings. Make sure that you have your instrument set to the correct height for you. Let's set up our bow hold. Relax your arm and your fingers and your wrist. Do some pendulums. Flop the fingers over the bow, middle finger touching the ferrule, curving the thumb under, accessing the end of the frog. Now we're going to start with our G string, our highest string. So what I want you to do is reach over your bass, and I want you to place the hair right in the middle between the bridge and the fingerboard, just as you can see here. We're going to bow a down bow. So where I'm starting on my bow is what's called the balance point. It's about 1/3 of the way up the bow. And I'm going to pull to my right and create a down bow. So remember, the frog is driving for the down bow. And I'm going to keep my arm relatively straight, not locked, but straight and relaxed. And I'm going to pull to my right, just like this. All the way to the tip. Give that a shot. Let's do it together. If when you bowed, you did something like this, that means that your wrist was locked and you want to have it relaxed. You want sort of a little bump on your wrist when you're at the frog and sort of a little valley when you're at the tip. If when you bowed you got an angle like this, your wrist is still too tight and maybe bent in a valley. So what we want to do is keep the bow straight across the string the entire stroke. Let's repeat that process on the next string lower, the D string. Starting at the lower part of our bow and going across the string all the way to the tip. If when you're bowing you get a sound like this, weak and wispy. We're not using enough weight. Think about the weight of your arm as a fluid that starts at your shoulder and pools in your hand, so you're really sinking into the string. The bass requires a lot of weight in the bow to create a clean and clear sound. Let's move over to the A string. So the lower we go with the strings, the more weight we're going to need. Also, the slower the bow should go. So on the A string, we should be using a heavier and slower bow than the D string or the G string, like this. If when you're bowing, you get this sound where it starts out nice and clean and clear, and then it gets softer, that means that we're not transferring the weight of our bow to the tip as we get closer to it. So what we want to do is lean in on our index finger for that. And we keep a nice clean and clear, even sound across the whole stroke. Last but not least, E string. We're going to start at the frog just like before, and we're going to use a lot of weight and not a very fast bow at all. I can go on forever with that low E string. Give that one a shot. Let's practice up bow. Find the G string at the tip of your bow, just like this. We're going to bow an up bow, so if the tip is driving, we're going to push to our left, just like this. Repeat the process on the D string. Same things apply. More weight at the tip, less weight at the frog. Repeat the process on the A string. Remember, we're slowing down and using a little bit more weight as we go lower. Last but not least, up bow on the E string. Practice your bow strokes on your open strings. I'd like you to practice doing a down bow and then an up bow on each. So we're going to do down bow, up bow on G, down bow, up bow on D, same thing on A, same thing on E. I'll count us off, 4-beat count in. We're going to pull our bow for 2 beats like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, 4-beat count in. 1, 2, ready, go. G, down bow, up bow, D, string, up bow, then A, then E. All right, bassists, join me in the next video where we're going to learn to coordinate our left and right hands and learn a song.